In today's video, we're going to run through my team selection ahead of match day 4. We're also going to give you guys the key data you need to make the best decisions ahead of this knockout phase for Euro 2024. Now, before we dive into today's video, I just want to say that if you do enjoy any of the content that you see on the channel, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, as we are getting ridiculously close to that 5,000 subscriber mark. And if you want to help us hit that goal, then like I said, be sure to subscribe. You can like and you can comment as well. Starting today's video, we're going to take a look at how my team fared in match day 3. I don't want to spend too long on this as it's kind of gone, but we're in a really good position. We're in the top 35k, which is absolutely immense. 58 points scored from our limitless draft. It probably could have gone a little bit better. Obviously, there were some disappointing picks. The Belgian boys obviously disappointing. Dallo from Portugal, Kane, the German picks as well. They weren't too good, but we did get some things right. I knew England were going to keep a clean sheet. I knew Spain were going to keep a clean sheet. I was pretty bullish on Christian Eriksen, and these players did allow me to get, a pretty decent jump from around 80k where we were before this match day as well. So it puts us in a really nice position heading into the knockout stages. Now, obviously, I've played all my chips, so we are going to have to be a little bit precautious with my picks coming up, but we will talk about that a little bit later as well. Again, though, overall, I think it was a pretty average week. We didn't do anything kind of special. We just picked on some good players. Captaincy, we could have potentially done a little bit better, but it is what it is. It didn't quite work out. But overall, I'm pretty happy with the matchday 3 score. Like I said, it puts us in a great position, going into these knockout stages. Now that we've entered the latter stages of the competition, there is obviously some changes going to take place within the game itself, and I thought I'd run through these as I've been getting a few questions in my comment section and on Twitter, so I thought we'd run through these in today's team selection video. So obviously, first one, you now have a transfer budget to build your draft of 105 million. Very nice. We're happy with that one. The highest scoring players from each round as well will now receive a price increase. So price increases, I've been asked a lot of questions, and there's kind of been a lot of debate on Twitter how these will work. Well, this is how it's going to work going forward. So the highest scoring players of each match day will now receive a price rise going into the kind of next match day, if you like. So very self-explanatory, very easy to understand. Free transfers will not carry over into the next match day. Obviously, with FPL, you can always carry one transfer over, and once it gets to 2, it stays at 2. But with this game mode, you'll get 3 for the quarterfinals, 4 for the semis, and 5 before the final. No more, no less. That is what you're going to be working with in those kind of match days each week. So you cannot carry transfers over. So if you make 2 in the quarterfinals and think, right, well, I'll have 5 for next week, that is not how it's going to work. They do not carry over. So just let that be known. 4 as well, points do continue into extra time. So if one of your players scores, or obviously a defender loses a clean sheet, or a player gets carded, or anything like that, those points will still count towards the kind of the fantasy score as well. So just be wary of that one. And penalty shootouts will not count. So if you think, oh, my player scored a penalty in the penalty shootout, it's pretty much irrelevant. So basically, if the game does go to extra time, that still counts. But if it goes to penalties, all of that is made redundant. And as you can see down the bottom, we do have all the transfers that you will be getting for these knockout stages. So in the round of 16, we've got unlimited transfers now. So go out, make as many changes as you possibly want. 3 for the quarterfinals, 4 for the semi-finals, and 5 before the final. So if you want to take a quick screen grab of that, I'd get to it. I'd do it very quickly. Right, let's move on to the round of 16 itself. So these are the fixtures. Obviously, we've got the left-hand side and the right-hand side of the draw. The left-hand side is a little bit more dangerous. The right-hand side, especially for some of the top teams on that side, they definitely feel like they have a very good opportunity. Now, I do feel, and I said this in my draft video yesterday, there are 2 strategies that you potentially could be playing. Obviously, if you're like me, you've already played all your chips, so you've got to be a little bit more cautious with some of the teams you are potentially focusing on. You've got to look at who potentially has a nice and easy route to the final of the competition. Whereas if you've got that wildcard to play next week, you can be very bullish with some of your picks. And something that I actually did miss off the last section, thank you for the car horn, something that I did miss off the last section was the fact that you now get 4 players from each side in this round, and that only increases as the tournament goes on as well. But definitely, if you've got that wild card available, you are going to be looking at teams like Spain. You are obviously going to be focusing on teams like Portugal, England, Holland, these teams that have pretty nice fixtures. And realistically, you can get away if they, go out or, have a difficult opponent in the quarterfinals because you've got that wild card in your back pocket. But if you're like me, you've already played all your chips, you're probably looking at stuff more like this. Which teams have high progression rates of progressing to the next round of the competition, or even latter as well. There was a good one that I included yesterday in my draft video, so if you want to go and check that out as well. Teams progressing all the way to the final. I think it was Italy, Spain, France, Germany were kind of some of the top ones. England with a very, very high probability of progressing all the way to the final. And as you can see here, Spain, obviously, they're going to be pretty much strong favourites as well. But obviously, when we're looking at teams that, maybe are a little bit more of a gamble for people like me, it is that Switzerland-Italy game, where there's not kind of a clear favourite. I know Italy are edging it, but realistically, I think Switzerland have been quite good. So those teams, probably only one asset at max from that game in total. Everyone else, probably we're looking a little bit more like 2 to 3. So England, definitely 2 to 3. Austria, Turkey, although it does fancy Austria to do quite well, and I'm actually backing Austria myself to do quite well, I still think there is kind of a high risk in that one. Netherlands for me, so Netherlands and England, definitely 2 to 3 assets from their team. France, Belgium, maybe 1, 2. Kylian Mbappe, maybe a defender. Portugal, probably the same situation, 2 at max. Germany, 2 at max. And Spain, probably 2 to 3. I think with them having a quite favourable fixture in that match day, I am tempted a little bit more with a triple up of Spain. But I do think that potentially could leave me in a tricky position if any of potentially the favourites from the other side of the draw do go out. There is obviously shocks in these European competitions and knockout football. There is only a max of 120 minutes and penalties, and you never know what can happen. So that for me is the 2 strategies you're looking at. Obviously, if you've got that wild card available, you are going to be focusing on the teams that have really, really good data and predicted points for this week, as we'll come on to look at. But if, like me, you're looking a little bit further, you've not got any chips to kind of bail you out, you are taking a punt on teams like England, Netherlands, Austria, and probably a couple from the other side of the draw as well. So let's move on to predicted data. This is, of course, coming from Rob T FPL. Again, a link to all his amazing work down in the description. Now, this here is the percentage chance of goals and the percentage chance of clean sheets. We'll start off with clean sheets first. Very easy to see which teams we should be targeting for the round of 16. Spain, obviously, being the key assets here. Portugal and England with a 55% chance, Holland with a 52% chance, Germany with 44%, and France with a 42% chance. Once it gets past that point, starts to get a little bit sketchy and not really kind of any teams that I probably would be focusing on from a defensive standpoint. But again, if you are on the wild card for this week, you want to be probably looking at a double up of England, Spain, Portugal in terms of defenders. Those are the teams I would be focusing on. If you need a cheap goalkeeper as well, Verbergen could be a great shout at 4.5 million. Moving on to the attacking side of things, probably teams we should be looking to target from that standpoint. Obviously, Spain with a very, very positive fixture. Georgia, their XG conceded has been pretty miserable across the entire tournament as well. Portugal with a predicted 2 goals in their game. England and Holland with 1.90 and Germany with 1.8. So again, definitely looking at targeting these attacks and these defenses as well. Interestingly, Austria actually have a higher predicted goals than France, Italy, Switzerland. Some of these teams that a lot of people are potentially considering, you have to look at Austria for their potential attacking assets. I think, though, something to potentially note as well, with the England one, I think it could be a little bit of an anomaly. They, for me, have been a little bit of a problem this tournament, especially in front of goal. It's not quite working. You can see it from an eye test perspective. You can see it the fact that England have created the lowest XG at the tournament as well. So it is off-putting going for these England attackers, in my opinion. Despite the data looking so juicy, England just aren't quite there for me personally. And as we'll come on to see, I haven't included any England attackers in my team selection for this week. But that's enough teasing. Let's go and take a look at that team selection for match day 4. And here we are, guys, the moment you have all been waiting for. It is my team selection ahead of match day 4. This is what I'm currently rocking at the moment, but obviously things can change. There will be streams. I think we're planning on doing 2 streams on Saturday, a preview one and a deadline one as well. So get yourself along to those to potentially see any changes that I will make to my starting lineup. Let's start off with our goalkeeper picks first. We're going to go for Jordan Pickford and Pence from Austria. Obviously, budget for me doesn't really feel like it's an issue at the moment. I think with this team, there's around 2.5 million left over in the bank. But with England having a strong probability of a clean sheet in this game week, and with a strong progression chance throughout the tournament, I feel Jordan Pickford, if England do progress all the way to the final, like I said, with that 39% probability of reaching the final, I think going for Jordan Pickford, he could be our number 1. Very, very easy just to keep him. England have had the best XG conceded at the tournament so far as well, so I'm very happy to have him. Pence is in here at 4 million. He offers us a different goalkeeper option, gives us that Austria link. Now, they weren't one of the top teams for clean sheet expected. They only got a 36% chance of a clean sheet in the round of 16. But for me, realistically, I feel Austria have a very, very good chance of getting quite far in this tournament. And if not, I am expecting England to do quite well. So I think he's a nice budget pick. And when players' prices do rise, we've still got quite a lot of money left over in the bank with having that cheap goalkeeper option. And realistically, I'm not obviously going to prioritise goalkeeper transfers a little bit later in the tournament unless one of my goalkeepers, well, both my goalkeepers do leave the tournament, but I can't see that potentially being the case. Right, let's move on into the back line. We're going to start off with Danny Carvajal. Now, him and Cucurella are the standout defender picks for Spain. I've gone for Carvajal as I definitely feel his place is a little bit more secure in that starting lineup. Obviously, Cucurella has been pretty immense so far at this tournament. Ball recovery numbers as well have been pretty exceptional. But with Grimaldo having a decent game in matchday 3, I think potentially there could be maybe some early substitutions or maybe a little bit of rotation if, you know, for this game, they think Spain that they could go and dominate and do extremely well on the attacking side. Grimaldo might be the better pick over Cucurella, but I definitely think both are worth considering from that Spanish side. And as you saw, they have the highest probability of a clean sheet in match day 4. Moving on to Mark Gahey, he's been one of the standout picks for England, top of ball recoveries as well for the entire tournament. I think it's 26 he's picked up, which is absolutely exceptional. Again, England, one of the top teams for predicted clean sheets and for progressing quite far in this tournament. Theo Hernandez is one of the picks that might actually potentially make way a little bit later. Maybe I'm still having and ah moments about this one. Obviously, France are on the difficult side of that draw. They only have a 70% chance of progressing through this stage as well. It feels like to me, maybe I might go for the double Spain or maybe even add an extra England defender in there if I'm feeling extra spicy. But for me, at the moment, we're going to go for Theo Hernandez. His expected goal involvement has been pretty exceptional, and he has been one of kind of France's standout picks, and I feel he's been very unfortunate not to get an attack in return. Moving on to our next defender, it is going to be Bastoni. The Italy-Switzerland game is extremely difficult which way that one is going to go. I think you either go for Bastoni or you go for Akanji from this fixture. Both of those have pretty good ball recovery numbers. Both as well have been in kind of man of the match conversations as well. Italy do slightly edge it for chance of progression and for the chance of a clean sheet. That is why we've gone for Bastoni over Akanji. Obviously, in the draft I did last night, I had Akanji. Today, looking at the data, I have switched and I have gone for Bastoni. Moving on to our final defender on the bench, it is going to be Nathan Ake. Again, been pretty decent with the ball recoveries and expected goal involvement with him playing at left back as well. I think he's had quite a few big chances created as well for a defender. So very, very happy to have him. Obviously, Netherlands with the side of the draw that they're on as well. Now, they should feel like they've got at least a strong probability of making those semi-finals. So I definitely think he is a decent pickup in terms of the defence. As well, they have a strong probability of picking up a clean sheet in the round of 16. Right, let's move on to our midfielders. We're going to start off with Bruno Fernandes. Portugal, again, were one of the top teams to go and do well for predicted goals in match day 4. Obviously, they're on that wrong side of the draw and could have a difficult opponent in the quarterfinals, but you never know what could happen with that one. I am expecting them to do quite well in match day 4, so I have gone for Bruno Fernandes. Offers me that captain, but realistically, he plays on the same day as Mbappe, so I'm probably going to slightly edge more towards Kylian Mbappe than rather looking at a Portugal asset. Moving on to our next midfielder, it is going to be Nico Williams. I feel he's been probably one of the standout players for Spain without getting a goal or an assist. Like we saw, they have a strong probability of progressing to the next round of this tournament and have pretty good data for predicted goals in this week. The main benefit for me over the people like Yamal and Morata, is he's not using up a striker position. He's using one of those midfielder slots, which I think realistically the midfielders this year haven't been as good as some of the forwards. And at 7 million, the date is pretty decent. I can't complain, to be honest. I just think he's a little bit of a hidden gem that definitely I've seen quite a few content creators picking up on, but I've not really seen too many kind of regular kind of managers potentially picking up on. So he could be a nice differential for you and, you know, your mini league as well. Moving on to our double Germany midfield. They've got Denmark in that week. They will obviously play Portugal, I think, or Spain. No, they're on the Spain's part of the draw if they do progress to that next round. So I feel that probably will be one of the areas that I do potentially look at maybe taking one of Musiala or Ilkay Gundogan out. It probably would be Musiala that would make way in the latter stages or the next round if Germany do progress. I think Denmark, they're not the same team that we've saw at the past few tournaments as well. Musiala and Gundogan have both had pretty good expected goal involvement. Gundogan slightly edging that one, and with him playing in the kind of first day of it, I definitely think he is a decent captain option for those first round of games. Moving on to our bench, we do have one midfielder on there. It is Sabitzer. I definitely feel with Austria having quite a nice run-in, potentially all the way to the semi-finals, it's worth picking up one of the Austrian midfielders between Baumgartner and Sabitzer. Sabitzer for me edges it. He's got better expected goal involvement, more ball recoveries as well, and he's also not on a yellow card and is pretty much a 90-minute man with the potential of penalties as well. So that for me, all that stuff edges Sabitzer over Baumgartner, but I definitely think both are pretty substantial picks. Moving on to our front line, obviously we're going to have Kylian Mbappe in there, and we've got Cristiano Ronaldo as our other forward in the starting lineup. Cristiano Ronaldo, like I said, Portugal, one of the best teams for predicted goals for this round as well. Obviously, the latter stages of this tournament, it does get a little bit more trickier for them, but if England do progress and probably put in a more attacking display, people like Harry Kane potentially could be back on the market as well. Maybe we go for a double up in terms of attack if we go for maybe Griezmann if France look really good against Belgium, but again, they will obviously be playing Portugal in that next round, so it's a little bit of a difficult one to call. But for me, both of the guys up front are definitely big hitters, especially Kylian Mbappe. He has created the most expected goal involvement at the tournament so far. He missed one of the games as well, yet to score in open play France, but I definitely feel they will score in open play against Belgium. Belgium defensively definitely look like a team that can be gotten at, and with Kylian Mbappe, like I said, being one of the top players for expected goal involvement, and France across the whole tournament being the top team for expected goal involvement, I do feel that someone could potentially be on the end of a battering when France start to click into gear. Moving on to our forward on the bench, we are going to go for Cody Gakpo. Like I said, Netherlands feel like they've been probably a little bit mid at best, but for me, Ake and Gakpo have been the standout players from their teams. Arguably, I've seen Gakpo being mentioned in some of people's kind of teams of the tournament so far as well. And I definitely think with Netherlands having a strong chance of reaching the semi-finals at the minimum, I definitely feel he could be one of those assets that goes potentially under the radar, but they've got, you know, some really nice fixtures on the horizon if they do keep progressing. And like I said, he's been a far better attacking asset than Memphis Depay, despite Depay potentially being on penalties and stuff like that. But I feel Gakpo is the one to go for from that forward area. So that was my team selection ahead of Matchday 4. If you've got any questions about your team, get them in the comments below, as we will try to answer as many as we can. But like I said, I will be live for the deadline and probably before it as well. So if you do have any questions or want your team rating, come along to those streams. But thank you very much for watching today, ladies and gentlemen, and good luck in Matchday 4.